All right, so a lot of people love the found footage film The Bay, which I saw back when it came out, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I just didn't think it was all that great. But my God, do I have some friends that blow the fuck out of this movie? Three of which are the Exploding Heads horror movie podcasters. Dave and Christian and Brandon. They all gave this high praise, just crazy praise. And I've seen a lot of people praise it. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go back. I'm going to check this film out again. It's currently streaming on HBO Max, which I currently just got. Or recently just got. Currently just got. That didn't make any sense. Whatever. Anyways, so I picked it up. I watched it again. And I'm still kind of on the underwhelmed side of things. That being said, I did like this movie more this time, but I'm still not on the love it. You know where I think the disconnect comes from me, and it doesn't come from everybody else who loves this movie, is that the horror that's presented to them, they see as very realistic. And so it scares them, and the film feels very unsettling because of the realistic nature of the film. And I do understand that because the film does present itself very believably. But for some reason, it doesn't fully land for me. There's some kind of disconnect, and I think that's in the way of that this is told through a very disconnective lens to the characters. Like, this is more of an account, a very detached news story. That's how this film plays out. So I don't attach myself to anyone dying of this horrible, disease or fucking plague or whatever the hell you want to call this. So I think that's where my disconnect is. And maybe that doesn't affect theirs. I mean, it must not. But in a film like this, even if it's hyper realistic, I have to connect myself to a couple people and fear for their safety. And I don't get that here. Even our main girl who's telling this account, the girl who plays the reporter, while she's good, I don't really connect, but her performance is great. I believe this film does a great job of presenting itself like it's real, for sure. But I just don't connect with anybody, so I don't really care as much as I should, even if I find it to be impressively realistic for a fictional film. So yeah. Upon rewatch, I'm still on the lower end of this film, but I do think it's kind of an overlooked film in the found footage subgenre. Like, if I was to make another one of those lesser known found footage films, I probably would still put this on the list even if I'm not high on it, because I know how many people do love it that when they do watch it. And it's not a bad movie by any means. It's a pretty effective film, and it was directed by Barry Levinson, a fucking guy who did Rain Man and plenty of other, pretty good films. So Rain Man's fantastic, but I'm just saying, like, this is a high caliber director that's had an incredibly successful film in the past. But yeah. So anyway, I would put it on that list because I just think that I don't really see this get talked about a whole lot. But when I do see it get talked about, the majority of people do love it. So, but still this. And I like that, the film definitely has this more realistic feel to it because of how much footage is comprised of all these different locations, shots, different mediums like the news or cell phones, and it's presented in this documentary style. Now, one thing that does kind of take me out of it, it's to add realism, but to me, it actually hurts the realism of the film because of how a documentary would actually be presented to us. So in the film, as they're showing us the edited full complete version of this documentary, they have scenes where the characters are saying, like, oh shit, I fucked up like what I'm supposed to say here. There's mess ups within it, and it's shown. And this is on the documentary side of things, not within the film, right? This is to add believability that these people are real people, that they make mistakes, that there's behind the scenes flubs, this and that. But in a film like this, those scenes wouldn't exist. They would edit those things out because those are the flubs. The point of that would be that they would edit them out. So they shouldn't actually exist within the film. As I said, not within the footage that is found, but the footage that is being presented after the fact in interviews with people who were there. And so there's the flubs that are left in, and that's to add realism, but that actually counters what it's supposed, it's counterproductive to what it's actually trying to achieve for me personally. I actually found that to be kind of distracting because I'm like, they wouldn't leave this in here. They would edit this out to be realistic, So I get the intention, but it has the opposite effect for me personally. And the demise of people, like when they're like, these bugs are like eating the insides of them, the isopods, which are the infectant in this. The CG is a little distracting, of course, but some of the bodies that they find and their stomachs and everything have been eaten out, their face and all that. Oh man, that shit's scary for sure. I mean, if this was to happen, if this was if this was real, this would be absolutely terrifying, 100%. So I can absolutely get that. And some of the images are very scary looking, like because we just went through something like COVID, because we know that a pandemic can be so catastrophic, and COVID was nothing compared to what it could be. I mean, something could come through and wipe out fucking 99% of us, like in The Stand, like like Captain Trips. Been a long time since I read that book. But yeah, I mean, this film does a pretty damn good job at that, though. They have like the CDC on the phone with this doctor. They have it does feel very realistic, and I completely understand why this film is loved. I'm just explaining to you why personally it doesn't exactly work for me. And it's also shown in this movie that the water has a D minus but passes, and that's true. That's absolutely true. Water like Essentia has a D minus rating on it. And it gets passed to be sold to the public. And like the highest rated water out there is, I think, Fiji with like a B plus, or like something like that. And then tap water has like an A. So that's a very interesting. When I looked that up, I Googled that years ago. So I don't know what it is now, but when I Googled it, that's what it was. Tap water was the highest rated water there was. Now, who paid for this? And is there manipulated? Nobody believes fucking anything anymore, and everybody believes the narrative they want to believe. If you look hard enough, you can find something to, go along with whatever you want to believe. You want to believe the earth is flat? Hey, there's a video for that. You want to believe in all sorts of nonsense? Trust me, you can find a whole group of people, and you can find a slightly convincing video or medical fucking, journal, it's something from some doctor or somewhere. You can always find the evidence towards what you want to believe. So that's why things are so fucked up right now. Everybody has their own truth. Everybody has their own reality. Like when you talk to like one side versus the other these days, it legitimately feels like they're living in a different reality than you. You like talk to them, you're like, that's not what's happening. That's not reality. You're not talking about a real world. That's your world? That's the world? And then you start watching some of the things or listening to some of the things that they watch or read, and you're like, holy shit, no wonder why you think the world's so like this and it's so not. Or at least in my opinion, or these people's opinions. And of course everyone thinks they're right, that they have the best news stream or the best source of information, and it's scary. And there's stuff like this that things can be completely covered up. There is that, and there's that, that breeds this conspiratorial type mind, which I think is very damaging to people. Conspiracy theories are fucking brutal on your brain, man. I think people get lost in that kind of stuff. Like once you start opening yourself up and you start distrusting one thing, then it's very easy to fall into distrust with all other things, and you start believing outlandish, insane things that no one should fucking believe. But that, it starts down that road of like believing in one little silly thing, and then just like, that compounds, and it blows up. And this is like that. This is like that, like, this was hidden from the public. This, and then somebody finds out about this, and then so this ends up being true, and then people are like, oh shit, what else should I not believe? And then they go down that rabbit hole, and it's scary, man. It's really, really terrifying what some people believe these days. And the shit that they'll do with that information, it really is terrifying. And that's always been true, but it's in an alarming rate nowadays. So anyway, it's just making me think about that. But yeah, I took a lot of notes on this movie, but I shouldn't say a lot. I took a decent amount, but they definitely make you fear water in this movie. I'm assuming the people from Flint, Michigan watch this and laugh. They're like, scary water? Bro, welcome to my life. Welcome to my everyday life. People from Flint, Michigan are watching the bay like, I wish there was isopods in my water. At least it would fucking end my life quicker. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some scary stuff in here. It's CDC just tells the doctor to bail, and the guy's like, well, my staff already did, but I'm not leaving. And then he ends up fucking dying. It's like, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's not far-fetched. Stuff like this definitely could happen. I mean, I don't know about like the way this is presented with the little creatures that are like eating people from the inside, but they're much bigger. Typically bacteria and disease are microscopic, and they'll still eat you. They just don't want to do it this fast. But they like to eat tongues and organs. And imagine something feasting on your tongue or your organs inside of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Imagine just feeling like something eating inside of you. Oh my God, it's just horrifying. It's a horrifying idea. But I think you at least know why there's the disconnect from here. But I mean, an unknown outbreak is probably my biggest fear. Like, just as I said, something like Captain Trips, some Armageddon apocalyptic type of disease sweeping the nation that like kills even 50%, 1 out of 2. Even that would be shit. 10% would be fucking crazy. But 50%, imagine something like COVID, but killing 50% of people. Dude, everyone would turn on each other. It's just terrifying. It'd be end times, man. It would be end times. We'd all be fighting for resources. Like when they depict that shit in movies of people all like turning on each other, and people are like, I don't know if they'd fall apart that quickly. I'm the person sitting there like, I don't think that they portray this quick enough. I think people would turn on each other even quicker than we see in film. Although we might be surprised. There's a lot of great people out there, but as I think they say in The Mist, you put a bunch of, people are civilized while the lights are on. But if you turn off the lights and you scare the shit out of people, then, you'll see what they're capable of. Paraphrasing, butchered, of course, but to the degree, some degree of that. And that's true. And we don't really see a lot of that in this, but that's because people aren't really to the wise of what's going on, and once they are, they're pretty much, almost dead by that point. So, but any of these kinds of shows where people are just dying horribly from some illness that they can't, and it's very contagious and it can move, and it's water. It's fucking water. It's the water. It's just people like jumping in the water, people, drinking water, people falling into the dunk tanks, people like, just out on their boat diving, just, how much we interact with water on a daily basis. What's our body comprised of? What's the earth comprised of? Mostly water, right? So water being our enemy is got to be one of the scariest imaginable things. But there's just a bit of a disconnect. But if I was to watch this purely from just like a documentary style found footage film, it's very good. It's very good. So I do see why the film is enjoyed as much as it is. But I don't know. I will say that the main girl in this, the wannabe, newscaster, she is much better looking with longer hair. Her short hair does not suit her very well, but with long hair, she's actually a pretty attractive girl. But with short hair, I'm like, ugh, I don't. I mean, she's not unattractive. She's just not. She's nowhere near as attractive. I thought that was interesting. So hairstyles really do matter. Coming from a hairdresser, let me tell you what, a hairstyle can change everything. It can make you look way worse or way better. And then there's some girls that can just wear anything. Usually they're like 20 with really defined features and slender bodies. They can fucking wear anything. Anything. You can put a mullet on them. You can put a fucking shaved head. You can put anything on them. And they're still totally fucking adorable. It's annoying. It's annoying. It's easy for me, though. When they come in, I'm just like, they're like, oh, what can I do? I'm like, literally anything. Literally anything. Anyway. And I think that's it. But yeah, I get it. It is a scary concept. It's a terrifying concept. And this all ends up breaking out because of the immense amount of chicken shit that's thrown out into the bay. So yeah, just factory farming is terrible. Terrible for the environment. I hate to be one of those guys, but it is. It is not the ideal way to be getting our food sources. So yeah, this of course is like that social commentary on factory farming is no good. We're polluting our environment. It's going to end up killing us all. It's very obvious what they're saying with this, and it's true. It's true. But of course, as I said, you'll go to some other source that'll be like, not true. Not true. This guy's a liar. You don't know what you're talking about. I've had people fucking fight me in the comments saying that the Civil War really had nothing to do with the freedom of freeing slaves. They're like, oh, you really think that's what it was, you moron, this and that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is wrong with people? What the fuck is wrong with people? Anyways, all right, I'm moving on. Adios.